Sorry for the delay. There's been some problems. Let me see. We have one person. We're gonna give some minutes because there's been like a problem of ours. Um, we're gonna have some minutes of waiting. We have already one person, three persons. Um, yeah, there's been like a problem. Okay, we're gonna give some minutes because there's been like a problem with the access to the webinar. And once we have more people, we will start. So yeah, I think people are connecting right now. We have already 5 people in. Just gonna give it a little bit of time. 6 people. Gonna give some minutes to see that everyone is here. Okay, people are accessing to it. Okay. Again, as we said before, there was a bit an error with the access. So now we're waiting a couple of minutes to see if people are accessing to it. We have already 8 people: Nancy, Leo, Risa, Chris, Joyce. Okay. Let's wait a couple of minutes more, and then we will start. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna start with some explanation. If it's your first time at webinar with us, as you will see, there's like different webinar widgets. Sorry, there's us, that's the media player, and then you have also the slides where we're gonna do the presentation. You have one widget that is for questions, Q&A, that just me and Matt you're gonna see, so they're private. And then you have like an attendee chat, there's a public and everyone is gonna see, so you can also write there if you have any questions or if you want to just say hello. And then you have another button that is the apply now. That is if you are interested in Ironhack and you want to apply to any of our courses, this button will go directly to our webpage. Once you put your name and your address, your contact details, someone from admissions teams will call you and then you would go on with the proceedings. So I'm gonna start with a small presentation from Ironhack, as probably everyone knows us already, and then we're gonna start in with Mati, and so people can also join us in the meantime. So basically, who doesn't know us, we're a tech school. We have more than 12,000 graduates and more than like 600 partner companies. We have a rate of 85% of employment after the 6 months when the person are graduated. We are 55 women enrolled in Ironhack, so we're quite 50-50, and 70% of our Ironhackers are career changers. And in terms of nationalities, we have plus 60 nationalities. And especially in Germany, Berlin, we are like a really diverse community. So what we are always focusing is on like a learning by doing methodology. So you will always build a portfolio and you will be hands-on projects while you are learning with us. You will also have access to a global network. We have like a really big community where you will have that access afterwards finishing, and you will also have different connection with different companies that we have as partners. Besides that, we have different financial options depending on your situation. If you are employed, for example, we have the Bildungsgutschein, that this will give you the bootcamp for free. We have other options like Chance or Cortana that lets you pay per installments, and other ones that you can also see in our website. Besides that, another highlight that we have in Ironhack and that not all bootcamps has, we have the career services. Basically, after you're finishing your bootcamp, you will have like a whole week where we're gonna have a manager, like an outcomes manager, who will guide you to find your personal brand, to position yourself, to work in your CV, to go preparing for interviews, to setting you up your LinkedIn, everything that will help you to find as fast as possible your new job. And not the less important, but we offer courses in cybersecurity, data analysis, web development, and UX UI. So after this, and after the inconvenience about the start that we are already like 16 persons, we will start the webinar. Hello, Mati. Nice to have you here. Mati is a TA teacher at Ironhack Berlin. And today he will be showing us how the basics of webinars like HTML, CSS, and also how to integrate it with ChatGPT. So now the stage is for you. So please present yourself and you can start us whenever you want.
Okay, thank you very much, Lua, and welcome everyone to this webinar workshop that, as Lua said, we are going to talk about HTML, CSS, and also we are going to use a little bit this trendy thing called ChatGPT. So let's dive a little bit into the structure that we are going to face today. We are going to have an intro of HTML and CSS. We are going to talk about the fundamentals, the things that you need to know before trying to build our landing page from scratch. And in the middle, we are going to talk about ChatGPT and how it can help us in our task. First of all, I want to ask in the chat if you can say me if you are totally beginner, if you know a bit about coding, if you already have some experience in coding, you can write in the chat and I can read it. It would be nice.
Let us know. You have there the chat. So I'm going to write a message so everyone sees it. So it will be nice to see how is your level. Don't be shy. We're not going to bite you. We just want to understand if it's something completely new or if you have a bit of experience.
Right.
Okay, we have
totally beginner, says Joyce. Hi, Diana.
Beginner, okay.
Beginner also for Risa. All right. So let's talk about what is HTML. HTML means hypertext markup language. So hypertext is a text that when you click, you go to another page. So basically HTML that was created in 1996 introduces the link. And this is a thing that is very important into internet, right? So HTML is like the structure, the skeleton of every web page. And it's your first step into developing your web or into web development. CSS means cascading style sheets and allows you to style your web page. So controls how the web will look. It's important to say that CSS was created in 1996 also, and it has only basic properties like margin, padding, or color. But in the last release that was in 2014 with CSS3, it added animation, transitions, 3D transitions, a lot of things that you can do right now, very different from the beginning. Maybe you already heard about this, but HTML is like the skeleton, the structure of the web page, and CSS is all these things that give the web page color, cloth, animations, movement. Let's talk a bit about what are programming languages. So computer understands zeros and one. Maybe you already know about that. When the electricity runs through a system, it means one, and when it doesn't, it means zero. And in the other hand, humans need semantics to communicate each other. And programming languages are the interceptions between binary code and human language. They are tools to transpose one kind of communication to another. Here we have an example of a low-level programming language with zeros and one, and a high-level programming language, like JavaScript. In the middle, there are a lot of translations that happens that the computer translates JavaScript to zeros and ones. And here I have like a funny task that you can do if you want to write your name with zeros and ones. Probably it's gonna be very tough and hard. Imagine if you have to write a web page only with zeros and one. That's must be impossible, right? Let's talk about the concept of HTML. What are HTML tags that are the most important thing, I would say, in HTML? First of all, we have the HTML tag, that is a primary structure, and everything has to be wrapped into HTML tag. We have the body, the header, nav for navbar, footer for footer. This is very explicit. You can know what they are by their name. Then we have also body elements, P for paragraph, H1 to H6 to for header 1 to header 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. UL for an ordered element or ordered element, and so on. Let's see a little bit the anatomy of a HTML tag. First of all, this is an element into HTML. We have an opening tag and a closing tag. The opening tag has a type that in this case is an anchor tag, that means a link. It has also an href that means the reference for this link is going to be the value of hope.html. So that means we have an attribute and we have a value. And we can have many attributes and values in every HTML tag. Also, the HTML tag has a closing and something that is in between, that is the content. Let's see another example. So for example, we have a link here that have a content of code for beginners, and an attribute href and a URL that is the attribute value. So this anchor tag define a hyperlink to a location on the same page or to another web page. In this case, this link is referring to another web page, right? But we can see also example when the link not only goes to an external web page, it can go also to an internal web page. And this is referencing another file into our tree structure of files. So for example, the index, when you click, you go to sub.html. Same happens for path, that for example, same happens for image path, that for example, the image has attributes like source, and the attribute value can be an external value like this web page, or can be also pointing to a relative that it's stored on your folder. So we can see that we have our image into the folder image called logo.png. So we can have absolute source or relative source. And this is example of an attribute. And remember that the tags can have many, many attributes. Also, another attribute for HTML tags are classes. That classes classifies a group of tags that shares the same role and or look. Same happen for IDs. So we can say that one attribute for our HTML tag is the ID, and we can give a value of a unique identifier. It's important that we give classes to some HTML tags who shares the same property, but IDs has to be unique. So it doesn't make sense to use the ID several times. Also, we can talk about what are inline and block elements. So that means some HTML tags behaves as a block. So whenever we have an HTML tag and we define another, it behaves like we see here in the picture as a block, or can be inline, that whenever we have many elements, they behave only as a line, so one next to each other. Most of the HTML elements behaves as a block, and I would say that some of them behaves as inline, like anchor tags, image, span, but I will never try to remember this thing. It's impossible to memorize all these things. Whenever you start to practice and to develop some web page, you really understand these things. So before diving into CSS, do we have some question about HTML, something that you would like to know?
We can give a couple of minutes. You can write it in Q&A, and if not, we can just go on. So if you have a question, just let us know and write it in the inbox in the Q&A. And if not, we just continue, and maybe there's some questions coming up later.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about CSS. CSS is a style sheet language used to describe rules that will define how our web page will look. So without CSS, all the web page would look something like this. Very boring, right? So this is the first web page ever created and was created in 1991, so 22 years ago. But with CSS, we can also make this boring web page a little bit better. Let's see how the structure of CSS will look. So we have a CSS formed by, CSS rule set is formed by two elements, a selector and a declaration block. A selector can be an HTML tag, can be a class, or can be an ID. And the declaration block will have a property and a value. Here we see an example. The selector is the H2, the heading 2, the property is background color, and the value is this weird number that we see there. This is an hexadecimal value. The first two numbers came for the red, the second one came for the green, and the two last came for the blue. And I searched it before, and this is something like a gray. Also, we have to talk about specificity in CSS, this word that is difficult to say, that it means which properties are going to be applied in our web page dependent of the specific or the specificity of the things. That means the more specific a thing is the one who is going to be applied. For example, an ID always wins against a class, and a class always wins against an HTML tag. There are many, many other rules, but for now, this is the only thing that you need to know. Also, let's talk about the selectors. We have the universal selector. That means when we have this one, this is going to be applied in the whole web page for all the elements. But this is a very weak selector. So many other ID will win against the universal, class will win, HTML tag will win against this one. We also have the HTML selector like p, header, or div, class selectors that starts with the dot and has to match with the thing that they write into the HTML. And ID selectors that starts with hashtag. And also we have pseudo classes that is a keyword added to a selector that specifies a special state of a selected element. So when this property is going to be applied, it's going to be applied when the button is in this state called hover. So when the button is hovered, then the color is going to become blue. Also, we have here another examples of pseudo classes like active, checked, disabled, empty, focus, hover, and so on. And the last thing that I have to say about CSS is to fully comprehend CSS web design, you have to learn one thing that is really basic, that HTML elements is a rectangular box. That means every element in HTML is a box and it have padding. So the content is this blue thing that is in the middle. Then it comes a space called padding. Then it comes the border. And after the border comes the margin. We are gonna touch these things in a bit. I'm talking about CSS properties. So the properties for the elements are like margin, padding, width, height, border, border radius, background color, opacity. For alignment, we can use display, position, align. And for the text properties, we can use some things like color, font family, font size, font weight, text align, text decoration. I think we are gonna use many of them in a moment. Okay, and our last thing, ChatGPT. What is this thing that is very famous right now? And 2 days ago has released the last version called ChatGPT 4. So it's a language model developed by OpenAI that it uses machine learning technique called deep learning to generate human-like response. ChatGPT has been trained with an amount massive of text data, and I found that there are more than 540 gigabytes of plain text and 175 billion parameters. Crazy. How it can help us in coding? There are many things that ChatGPT can do for us, but one of the things is assistant with coding problems, like debugging and giving us solutions. Information on programming concepts like syntax and best practices, and also learning new programming languages. All right, and with that, we finished the first part of this webinar. Is there a question so far? Something? All right, Maxim has a question. On which software can we develop website in HTML for beginners? So we can develop a website only using HTML and CSS. And we don't need nothing else to create a basic website. Probably we can use also JavaScript as our programming language for give some abilities or movement or some things that needs to happen when the user interacts with the web page, but we don't need any specific software. I hope it can help. All right. Lua, something you need to say? I think that no, right?
No, nothing from, like, if you want, you can now share your screen so we can go to ChatGPT directly.
Yes. All right. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, I think everyone should have been able, but if anyone is not seeing the screen, please let us know. I can see your screen.
All right. So what tool are we gonna use today for develop our website? There is another question here. So which is the best frame of JavaScript? React, Angular, TypeScript? I think this question is very hard to answer. I know I use React, but any of them is the best. I would say they have different capabilities and using cases, but there is not like a best. And if I get a package of website source code, can I plug it into the host and edit the code? I don't understand the question very well, but you mean if you have a code, you can host it internet?
Well, they can re-ask the question. If not, we can see again if you could like
Mhm.
rewrite your question, and then maybe we can see to be able to answer it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you have a source code and you want to host it, first you need to find a server to upload your code. And whenever you have the server, and probably the server can give you also a domain, then you can put your web page online without problem. I hope it can help. All right, so what we are gonna use today for develop our web page. So you must enter to this web page called CodePen that right now I have here already open. Probably here you will see some buttons like sign up or login. You can do it, or you can press a button also here that says start. And whenever you click it, then you're gonna see something like this. That this is gonna be our code editor that has HTML, CSS here, and here has also JavaScript. But in this webinar, we are not going to talk about JavaScript because I think it's a little bit more advanced. We are going to talk about HTML and CSS. So I repeat again, the name of the webpage is codepen.io. If you want to open and code with me, you can do it, or if you want, you can just see me while I'm doing it. So, in base what we talk, we need first to have an element called HTML, and this has to grab everything because we need to say to the browser, hey, I'm writing HTML, and then the browser can understand us. Also, we are going to have something called head. This is not being shown in the web page because the head contains information that it means the configuration that the browser has, like meta information. Also, we can here like give a title to this web page. And as I said before, this title is not going to be shown. Usually the title of a web page is this thing that we see here, but right now we are in this web page called CodePen, so we are not gonna see it. Right, so we have the head and we can define the body, but the body, yes, it's the thing that we are gonna see into the web page. And between the body, for example, we can define a p tag. And we see that this is being shown here. So finally we can see something, but we are not going to create a p tag. We are going to create a navbar. Sorry, first of all, I want to show you how our web page will look at the end. Oh, this is very helpful. So at the end, we want to create something like this, right? With an up bar at the top, with this effect. We want to have also these images, a little bit about me, then a contact form, and then a footer. Also, we want that the images make this funny thing. All right, so let's try to make it work. Go ahead and create an app bar. With our opening and closing tag. And inside them, let's create 4 links. The links are going to have an attribute called href. And right now we can't give a real href because we don't have many many files, we have only one. And we can have this 4 times, right? Because we want to have into the navbar 4 links. So something like home, projects, out, and maybe contact. And we can see here our 4 links that are very boring without CSS. So let's give some things to the CSS. First of all, as a universal selector, I'm gonna say that my font family is gonna be, maybe it can be Verdana, the first option of, and if some browser don't have Verdana, then we can have sans serif. And we see this already changed, right? Also, we can give 0 margin to this one. And our navbar can have around color of, say, gray. What else? Our navbar will have a width 100% of the parent element. Also some padding of 30 pixels. And we are going to give to this text align center. Wow, this is becoming to look better, right? I want to explain something that is important, that whenever we have values here into padding, margin, into padding and margin, then if we have only one value, this value refers to padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left. If we have 2 values, the first value refers to top and bottom, and the second value refers to right and left. And if we have 4 values, then it's first top, second left, third bottom, and first top, second right, third bottom, and fourth left. So like clockwise. All right, we have our navbar, but we want to keep some styles individually, right? Because probably we want to have some space between them and also change the color. So I'm gonna introduce this way of using CSS because I want to focus every link, but not all of the links in the web page. I want to select the links who are into the navbar. And the way of doing that is says the link that are into the navbar. So first, like the parent, space, the child. And we can say that the color has to be white. And the font size can be 18 pixels. So we can give a padding of 16 pixels and margin 70 pixels. All right, it's becoming better, right? Also, we can use, the links per default has this underline, and we want to remove it because it doesn't look very good. And say that the text decoration has to be none. Awesome. What else we can do? We can try to, when we hover the links, then something change. So how we do that? Again, we can say the links that are into the navbar on the pseudo class hover must change the color, must change the background color right now we have the problem that the thing is not very visible, so we can say that the color should turn to black maybe. All right. Much better. And I think we already finished our navbar. So we can go ahead and try to display our 4 pictures here. So whenever we finish with the navbar, we move to this part, to the HTML. We are going to have a div. It's going to receive an ID, all container image. And inside this, we are going to have another div with the class class image wrapper. And inside of this div, we are going to have an image. And it's important to say that the image tag in HTML is a self-closing tag. So don't have nothing in between. And if we think if we think it makes sense because the image don't have any kind of content, only needs to have a source, right? And since I'm a lazy developer, I just copy paste these things 4 times, and I'm gonna add an image as a source. I have it here. Source of our first image. Second one. And fourth one. Right. And right now we face this problem that the images are huge. So we can solve this issue with CSS. So in this part, first of all, I'm gonna focus on this part, the container of the images. So container image with the hashtag, because this is an ID. And I'm gonna use a thing called Flexbox. That Flexbox is a layout tool that provides us the ability to distribute the things that are into a container through the web page. So for use this, I only just need to declare display flex. I just want to see if there is something in the chat. All right.
There is a question in what is padding, for example. There's someone asking what is padding in CSS.
Okay, thanks, Lua. So let's here put padding, or yeah. And let's see again this image. That every element into HTML has a content, and then the thing that is before the border is the padding, then comes the border of the thing, and then comes the margin. And the thing that is after the margin is the next element. I hope this can solve the issue. I think I already used padding here. For example, in the links, I use 16 pixels padding. You see that the thing gets spread. So let's see what happens if I put 30. And it gets bigger and bigger because the padding is bigger every time. All right, so I already set my container image as display flex. Then I can say that my image wrapper class is gonna have a flex of 25%. So that means every element into this thing called Flexbox, it's gonna be 25%. Since I have 4 of them, I need this space for them. Then I'm gonna set the height as 15 pixels. Also, I'm gonna set a thing that is overflowing the image. It's gonna be hidden. And All right, you see this is starting to look better, but still they are huge. So I want to select every image that is into image wrapper class, and I'm gonna give a width of 100%. All right, much better. And a height also of 100%. And probably you are wondering what this 100% means. This means 100% of the parent element. And what is the parent element of this image? The parent element of this image is this image wrapper that we already set to 25%. So it's going to be the 25% of this thing.
We have another question that here I see that
Yeah.
why my navigator comes in a small box while yours is like in a row? And please, can you explain again what is Flexbox?
Yeah, all right. So why your navigation bar is not spread along the screen? Probably because you didn't set the navbar to the width of 100%. If we, as we said before, this is 100% of the parent element, and the parent element of this navbar is the body, that the body is the whole screen. So that means this navbar is going to take a 100% of the whole screen. And Flexbox, I really recommend you to continue learning about this because it's a thing that in coding and in front-end developers is very, very important. It's a layout tool who help us to distribute the elements that are into a container. So, for example, this tip container, to distribute them as boxes, I would say. So then we have this behavior that the images are kind of boxes into the screen. I hope it can help. All right, so we have already these 4 images.
Okay, we
Let's
also
start.
have, sorry, no,
Yep.
there's other 2 questions, but whenever you have time, you can answer them. But there's a question like, how can we be good at making website? We should learn HTML, CSS tags, or we should do lots of projects? Is it like coding by doing projects, or just by like learning tags? What would you?
No, I highly recommend to coding, as Lua said, because the only way to remember all these things is not by memory, it's just making website. In YouTube, there are a bunch of tutorials, bunch of things that you can learn. Yes, I would say practice, and then you don't need to memorize the things like HTML tags. You just,
Or
okay, yeah.
or you can join us in Ironhack and do the web dev bootcamp,
For sure.
and you will also learn how to do
Yeah,
everything, and you will
in
practice.
that case, you are going to learn a bunch of things, not only HTML and CSS. You
Yeah.
are going to learn JavaScript. You are going to learn databases. You are going to learn React, how to build a backend. So many another nice things. All right. So let's try to use our friend ChatGPT to. One idea that I have is, these web pages that when you scroll down, then the navbar follows you, right? So let's try to ask ChatGPT how to do that. If we scroll down, I want the navbar to follow my scroll. Right. So I can say, could you help me make my navbar. All right, it says certainly you can make your navbar follow the scroll of your web page using a combination of HTML and CSS. Here is one approach you can take. Here we can see that the HTML is like us, but a little bit different because we don't have UL and we don't have LI. But let's continue seeing what's the solution on that. Also, it says that our navbar has to be position fixed, top 0, left 0. We have already width 100, we have already background color. We don't have a box shadow, but we don't need it. Also, it says set the height of the navbar. Yeah, all right. The navbar element is given a position fix, which means it will remain fixed position on the screen regardless on how the page is scrolled. The top and left properties are set to 0. The width is 100%. Background color, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's try to implement this. So these are the properties that we don't have right now. So navbar, apply position fixed. And what else? Here say set the height of the navbar. First of all, let's see what happens right now. So right now we can't scroll because the web page becomes smaller. So let's say that the body have a height of and you see we already achieved this. The navbar is following us along the web page. And we also need to set this margin. All right, here there is also one problem that I detected, but ChatGPT is not saying us, is that the images, I'm gonna delete this. The container image has to have also a margin of say 80 pixels. Because I'm going to remove it and show you. You see it goes up. So part of the images are hidden. And with this one, we solve this problem that the images are a little bit hidden. All right, what else can we ask to ChatGPT? So you saw in the example that I showed that when I hover the images grows a little bit. So we can say make the page grow a bit. And we can also keep the HTML that we have. And we can also give the CSS that we have. this is really fast.
We have also like a question related with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
If ChatGPT can help us with image illustration design for the website, or is just for the code?
I think ChatGPT can only give us text, but DAL-E can generate image. So probably another AI can help us with images. All right, so let's see what we have here. So you can add transform property to the image grabber image hover selector. So we have here this image grabber image hover. We have here also this transition in the image. So we add it, right? Let's go ahead and copy this. And also this transition to the image grabber image. All right. Yeah, all right. What else? And in this case, we need to give to the navbar because this is overwriting our navbar, you see? So we have to give to the navbar a set index 100. That means our navbar is going to be always on the top of everything. And then we solve this problem that we had before. All right. Thank you, ChatGPT. This is awesome. All right, let's create the next section.
There's like one question
about yes.
For continue,
you.
like, did you copy and paste your code to ChatGPT question? Or
yes, I just, this is my question. I say, could you help me to make the pictures of my web page grow a little bit? And I say, I have this, and I just paste it like this. And then I say, and I have this CSS.
Great.
Yeah, and that's it. And it understands perfectly.
And then we have another one question is, can you use the height of another object as a reference size? Let's say image wrapper slash margin top height. Well, you can see it is in the main chat.
All right.
Yes. You see the question in the chat?
Can you use the height of another object as a reference size? Let's say image grabber, margin. Not this way, probably. We can use the height of another object using percentages. For example, whenever we use percentages like this reference to the parent element. We can also define things with the two minus, I would say, and give a value to something. So in this case, probably you can set the margin top of something like height of something and then use this value. So something like in JavaScript, when you declare a variable, you can also use it in CSS. But if you want to use the height of another element, I say I don't know how to do that. Stefan. All right, let's create the next section. And I'm gonna copy paste it because this is a little bit long and it's gonna take me a while, but I'm gonna explain. All right, so after this div, that is the div of the container. So after the div of the container, I'm gonna paste a section called about me. This is a little bit unbalanced. All right. I have to say that this code pen is not very friendly. Usually in web development, you use Visual Studio Code that have many snippets and many ways to use the things better. And it's going to be much easier to balance these HTML tags in Visual Studio Code, but here it's a bit tough. All right, so I paste this about me. And let's give a little bit of CSS to this one that have section and H2 that says about me, a paragraph that says, hi, my name is Matthias and I'm 31 years old. I live in Berlin and I love React.js. Then we have a div with an ID called container about. And this container about have two divs that contains education, web development at Ironhack, and work experience, teacher assistant at Ironhack. So we can see how this HTML structure gets nested and how a section contains an H2, a paragraph, and a div. The div contains two divs, and every div contains an H3 and a paragraph. So we can say that the section is gonna have padding of 30 pixels. So the 4 values, top, left, right, and bottom, is gonna have 30 pixels of padding. Looks like the text align is gonna be center. You can say the container about also we have a margin pixels pixels, and also define a border that should be cool, I think, of 2 pixels first. Then we can define how has to be the border, has to be solid. We can also use something like dotted. Yeah, you see the difference? Solid, and also has to be black. But I have to say that here I make a mistake because I don't want this to be a full box. I want that every div into the container about is an independent box. And you see how this changes because it's different if I refer to the container about than if I refer to the divs that are into the container about. And the thing that I want to define in the container about are that this is gonna be display flex, content space around. You see how this changed, and this can be also centered, for example, but like this, space around. All right, beautiful. We can also give to these tips rounded corners. So we can say that the border radius can be, see how it changes? So for example, if it's 50 pixels, yeah, but 15 just be. All right, the last thing that I want is to have a contact form before. And since we are running out of time, I'm gonna ask to ChatGPT, could you help me to generate a form? Name, email, and all right, sure. Here is an example with name, email, and message fields along with some basic CSS styling. All right, so let's go ahead. First of all, let's look what it has. It is a form with a label that is name, and with an input with an attribute type, attribute ID, attribute name, and it's also an attribute required. All right, so when we finish the section, we can paste the form that ChatGPT gave to us. Very slow. Okay, and we have here the form without the style. But let's see what ChatGPT also gave to us. All right. But I'm gonna do another request, like could you generate the same answer, but beginner friendly? Because these inputs square brackets are a little bit advanced, and says, sure. Right, I'm gonna copy this and replace it for the one before. And on the CSS, we have, okay. So this means the inputs who has the type text and the inputs who has the type email, and the text area will receive these properties. And the input of type submit on hover is going to have this background color. All right. Okay, and then we have our beauty form. With name, email, and message. that the message is a text area. See here, text area, the input type email or input type text, and every input has a label. We can see here. All right, this saves us a lot of time. And what else we want to have? We want to have a footer at the very end. So I have here my footer. Paste it. So I have a HTML tag called footer. Inside has a div and 3 links, right? So here is my footer, nothing special. But if we apply some CSS to it, the only thing that we need is to say footer. So what we can say, we can give the background color. If we use our hexadecimal value, if we say 3333 6 times, kind of a gray, we make it equal to the top bar, we can say gray. The color of the font has to be white. Say the text align center. And we can also add a little bit of padding. 20 pixels. Great. And you see that here doesn't make sense that the form is very close to the footer. So if I go to form, and add probably just a margin of 20 pixels. And then this auto means center our. So this means for the top and for the bottom 20 pixels, and for the right and the left auto. Auto means in the center. And then they are not very close. We can give a little bit more probably. All right. And this is our web page already finished in, I don't know, 45 minutes. Ready to be used, maybe.
There's one question. What is the required feature within the input? First time I run into that.
All right, good question. So require means that I cannot submit this form without typing something here. So let's see what happens if I click here. Then it says, you need to complete this field. Okay, I will write something. And then the email is also required and say, hey, you need to complete also this one. So it's kind of a must into our form. If I delete the required here and here, then only our message is required. Oh, this is very slow, I think, probably because of the sharing the screen. Only the message is our required field.
Amazing. Thanks for answering.
You're welcome.
So everyone, so that you know, we will have this webinar in our meetup group from next week on, so you can rewatch it whenever you want it. And if you miss some part, you can have it from next week on. So we're just gonna leave a couple of minutes if there's any question that you want to ask. We have right now one. Can we get recorded video? Yes. As I said, the video will be in our meetup groups and Berlin, Montreal, and all of them. You will have the ChatGPT webinar from next week on. It will be programmed every 2 weeks, but you can access to the link whenever you want. Even if it says one day in particular, you will see that it's on demand, meaning that you can watch it whenever you want.
I also want to
Okay.
say I
Yeah.
want to send the final code that we built today. That
Mm-hmm.
it's into my GitHub account. You will post it there. If you want to review the code, if you want to check my another repositories, if you want to follow me also on GitHub, please do it.
Perfect.
I will be
Then you have it in the
glad.
chat, so everyone can see the code. And then we have another question: is which framework would you tackle first if you started fresh, besides Joy, Carry, and Bootstrap?
Which framework? I would say React because it's the one that I learn most, it's the one that I like it, and it's the one that I use. And there are things that you need to know that are basic into web development. For example, learn JavaScript, learn what a variable is, what are the different type of variables, learn what is the DOM. Uh, and once you already finish and you are already very confident with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you can dive into React, that it's a framework who gives a lot of mm, many abilities into web pages. And it's hard, but it's awesome, I would say.
Perfect. So if that's all the questions, you have the GitHub here in the comments in the attendee chat from Mati. You will have this recorded session from next week on. Um, Thank you so much, Madi, for this extraordinary workshop. And I hope to see some of you joining Ironhack or Bootcamp. For more information, you click the bottom here, and one of our admissions teams will call you for more information or for any specific questions from each of your cases. And that will be it. Thank you so much for your time. And we hope to see you in another webinar and also to see all of you in all of others events that we have or webinars that are coming.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good day.